Hi everyone, my name is Alexander Clark and today I'm going to teach you how to effectively and efficiently execute a sumo deadlift. The sumo deadlift is a thing which I see people getting wrong most often in powerlifting. Most of the time the way people pull sumo means that they probably are better off not doing it. With a few technical hints and cues, however, they could improve their sumo form and the amount of weight they lift. So I'm going to break this video down into 3 parts. The first will be the setup, i.e. stance and grip width. The second will be setting hip height, and then the third will be the pull. First part of your setup, stance and grip width. You should choose a stance which allows your ankles to be directly below your knees when pulling the bar off the floor. There'll be some athletes who have a slightly wider stance than this, and there'll be some athletes who have a slightly narrower stance than this, i.e. a semi-sumo stance. However, those athletes have developed the technique and the strength curves over years of training, and that's what suits them. For a beginner or even intermediate, that's the best way to go. Ankles directly below knees when pulling off the floor. So secondly, grip width. This is really simple. Your hands and your arms should hang directly down from your shoulders. Now, if you're a female athlete or an athlete who has very narrow clavicles, and it means that when your arms dangle directly down from your shoulders, you are not gripping the knurled part of the bar, then you may have to reach some form of compromise. Hopefully, your hands are on at least some of the knurled part of the bar. Now, if your 1 rep max is such that you can pull it without having to grip completely onto the knurling, then that's great. I would literally just go for a efficient pull, which is arms straight down from shoulders, and just accept that you're not going to grip all the knurl, but your grip's not going to give out anyway. But if your grip is becoming an issue with not gripping the knurling, then you may have to make some form of compromise in terms of range of motion and move your grip out a bit gradually. I'm going to show you a few repetitions here and show you how I'm going to set up. Of course, I've neglected to mention that your feet should be pointed out at 45 degrees. Some people will point the feet out slightly less than that, maybe 35 degrees, but that's going to depend on your limb lengths and stuff like that. So have a play around with it, but 45 degrees tends to be a safe bet. Any more and stability starts becoming an issue. So for me, I use the rings always to check that my feet are an equal distance apart, equidistant. Then I turn my feet out 45 degrees, making sure that the bar is touching my shins. I reach down to grab the bar, and that's the first part of my setup. So the next stage is setting your hip height. And there's one thing that setting your hip height is really going to depend on. The bar is not going to want to come off the floor until it is directly below your scapulae. Okay, that's your shoulder blades. People think that they need to set up with their shoulders directly over the bar. That's incorrect. The shoulder should be slightly in front of the bar. Okay, so if you're looking from the side, your shoulder should appear slightly in front of the bar. Rather than demonstrate this, I'm just going to show you a video in a second of me completing my last 2 heavy pulls, or 2 of my last heavy pulls from today, and you'll notice that my shoulder does start slightly in front of the bar, and what happens is my hips do not have to shift to get that weight off the floor. You'll notice that when people set the hips too low with their shoulders behind the bar, the weight will just pull them forward. It will happen inevitably. You can't make your hips lower than they naturally want to be. They will start at the right place, and you don't want to get thrown into that place. You want to set it naturally. Okay, so once you've made sure that your scapulae are above the bar, your shoulder blades are directly above the bar, then you want to push your knees out. Okay, push your knees out, open your hips, yeah? use your external rotators and your glutes to open your hips, bringing your body closer to the bar, and also then you want to pull your shoulder blades back and down to lock your lats in and make your arms as long as possible. Okay, so that's going to create a really tight position, and that is basically what's going to create a neutral spine as well, which is the last part that I wanted to speak about in this section. A neutral spine is basically a spine where all the vertebrae are stacked on top of each other, so that's a nice tight bracing point. So, brief recap. Shoulder blades directly over the bar. Push your knees out and make sure that your knees are directly in line with your toes. Okay? Too many people who pull sumo let their knees drift in, almost like a knee valgus, and that just throws everything off. It causes your back to round, it causes the bar to come away from you, it just ruins a sumo pull. Knees directly in line with the middle of your toes all the way through the lift, okay? And the last thing is tighten your lats, shoulder blades back and down, and also keep a neutral spine. So, the final part of the sumo deadlift, the final aspect that I will go through with you is the actual pull. So I'm going to get set up as we've just described, I'm going to set my hip height, etc., and then I will talk you through how to actually pull and how it should feel when you're pulling a sumo deadlift. Okay, so I've set my feet, toes pointed out, 45 degrees, bars against my shins, shoulder width grip. I've then made sure that my shoulder blades, my scapula, are directly over the bar. I've opened my hips out. I've made sure my spine is neutral and my lats are tight. So I'm in the perfect position now. Now the pull should be initiated by driving through your midfoot. I'm not talking your heels, I'm talking your midfoot. Driving through your midfoot, being sure to keep pushing your knees outwards using your glutes, so opening the hips, and keeping your lats really, really tight, almost trying to bend the bar this way so that the bar stays close to you. You don't want to let it drift out. Okay, so it's less of a pull and it's more of a push. So just like this, I am driving through my midfoot, and you notice there that my knees locked out first, just before my hips. And that should happen naturally if you're doing it correctly. You're going to drive through your midfoot, focusing on pushing your knees outwards, opening the hips, and then trying to get them locked and thrusting your hips forward as hard as you can. I'll show you again. And there you have it, the sumo deadlift. There's one part which I didn't really cover, and that's breathing and bracing, but that is really for an entirely different video, because there's so much to cover. But of course, if you already know how to breathe and brace, you will do that before you pull. I hope all this has helped, and I hope to bring you more instructional videos in the future. Thanks.